Possible by our patrons and supporters. Please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/bookofhours or join Rockfin at rockfin.com/bookofhours. You can also make a one-time donation with Cash App or use PayPal at paypal.me/bookofhours. Thank you. Well, hello.
Hello.
Welcome to another edition.
Another edition of Bookmark.
Yeah,
It's been a while.
It's been a month. We've been doing these once a month now, as it turns out. They just kind of happen.
It feels like it's been about 6 months.
We've been trying to do them every 2 weeks, but that kind of fell aside. We just introduced a new thing called Footnote, and it's an audio only. But we were like, this show is which one is this?
Which one is this again? So are we live on Rockfin right now?
Yeah, I wanted to say hi to Rockfin.
Hey Rockfin, thanks for all your support. Thanks for not censoring us.
Right. It says, oh yeah, we're live. Okay. So Rockfin, hey, thank you. Thank you, Rockfin viewers, and those of you who join Rockfin. You get premium content, which, by the way, we spoke about Footnote a moment ago. Mm-hmm. Footnote is premium content.
Right. Footnote is premium content. Every once in a while, we throw in a Friday freebie, which we did yesterday. So I feel like these last couple of days has been all about, putting forth, conversations and material.
Having conversations. Well, the freebies are different content than the other ones. So,
totally different content. Yeah, absolutely. First things first, though.
Okay.
I want to recognize 7 little and not so little munchkins.
I was just thinking about the munchkins. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
The lollipop kids.
It's probably because we are the lollipop kids.
We represent the lollipop kids.
First and foremost, I'll do it in order of age. How's that? Okay. So first I want to recognize Eden, my niece. She is quite accomplished, quite the piano player, and very, very sweet. We have our birthdays are a few days apart, so that's kind of cool. So looking forward to seeing her again, and talking to her and getting to see how she has turned into quite the young lady.
I'm just thinking about all the Libras in my life now. Okay. Anyway.
All the Libras in your life, right? And then the second person I want to acknowledge is Landon. And by the way, these are people that are related to me and JP by marriage.
By marriage. Yeah.
Landon, who is a 13-year-old, 5'11" redhead, and is playing football now. So congratulations, Landon, on being so tall and
quite an accomplishment.
It's going to be quite interesting looking way up to my 13-year-old nephew. Braxton.
We're both going to be looking up to him.
Right, we're both going to be looking up to him. Braxton, hey, I want to say, hey, stay cool. You're doing great. I'm super excited to hang out with you. I'm glad to see that your teeth have grown in.
Another story, folks. You don't need to know.
Another story.
Yeah.
And of course, Bryn.
We've been watching on what is it? TikTok
and YouTube.
Yeah.
Bryn, you're doing very well. I would definitely still say that the nickname that you were given when you were a toddler, Brynzilla, still applies.
Oh my God.
Remember Brynzilla?
Yeah, I do. And Bryn shows up at the end of our
she does.
Lifelong learning.
Yeah, she shows up.
She's not the little boy playing the ukulele.
No, she's not the little Asian boy playing the ukulele. she's the blonde toddler acting crazy.
Yeah.
So
watch Lifelong Learning. It's appropriate. I was going to try to launch it again, because kids are going back to school.
Right. It's appropriate.
Yeah, it's appropriate. It came out 2 years ago.
Right. And then, of course, I have just discovered that my next two nieces, Madison and Emmeline, have actually started to work in graphics, and also, I'm feeling threatened. I'm like, right? Oh my gosh, these little girls, they're super little. Like, they already know how to make digital effects. They already know how to do digital effects in video making. My mom's sending me these like videos of my two little nieces, Emmeline and Madison. Emmeline, of course, is the very youngest niece of the 7. And Madison and Emmeline are like doing these really cool videos. But there's all these graphics and special effects in there,
the
and
stuff
I'm like,
the stuff that the stuff they include in TikTok now.
Maybe we should hire them as assistant production engineers.
It's pretty low res stuff, but I mean, it rivals what we use in Final Cut Pro. In fact,
I know we bought this like really expensive graphic program, and we make our video essays. And meanwhile, these two little girls are like totally showing us.
We got to start buying the extra packages to add to the Final Cut Pro.
Final Nut. So yes, I want to acknowledge Eden, Landon, Braxton, Bryn, and Madison, and Emmeline. Oh, and Ashlyn. Ashlyn is number 7. Yeah. Ashlyn lives in Arizona. She's actually the oldest. And Ashlyn, I hear you're doing really well. And I'm super excited for you and your new adventures in life. So
stay cool in Arizona.
Yeah. Right. So that's very cool that she's, old enough now that she's off on her own and earning her own income and living her own life. I think that's really cool. So yes, it goes in order of age. It actually goes Ashlyn. Eden, Landon, Braxton, Bryn, Madison, and Emmeline. And I'm sure that my sister-in-laws and my mother and everybody else will tell me if I got it right or wrong. And I'm pretty sure that I got it right. So thank you for that. Thank you for being you. Super excited to see everybody again. Everybody. I think that it'll be really great. Cool. I got a great birthday present from my awesome husband coming up, which my birthday is in October. So I'm super excited about that. Yeah. And it'll be kind of like a cool family reunion. Yeah. So
we got a couple
really excited.
Very exciting. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
On with the show.
Yeah. We got a couple chats.
So Robert, what do you mean by green screen? Are you saying that we need a green screen? Is that what you mean? I don't get it.
We've got our very cool 50s Tonight
You don't
Show.
Like our tapestry?
This is our Tonight Show. This is our Tonight Show curtain background. So
all we have to do is like bring in some Tonight Show music.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm thinking the guy's name, Jack Parr. This is our Jack Parr studio background curtain. So the original Tonight Show. And then Sherry says, "Hey, you two, I've been out of things for a bit.
Good to see a
Same
live
with
video.
Me. Yeah, so nice to be back. We've been away for about a month. We actually went to the shore.
Well, we haven't been to the shore for a month. We only went to the shore for a few days.
That's what I'm saying. We haven't done a show for a month.
Oh, we haven't done a show.
So since the last show, we've been to the shore. So so we got a little beach time and we're feeling good.
Feeling good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Michelle, for that. We like the dark linen as well.
Yeah. It's very Perry Mason, right?
A level of prestige to our silly little podcast.
Yeah.
So
all right.
What's up?
What is up?
I know. I feel like we started out like on a really high note, like naming off the kids and all their accomplishments, and now we have to get into the dark stuff. I'm like, oh,
welcome to the dark side, Julia.
It's like we have to contribute to the anxiety that people are already feeling.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. So Kia says, "Hey, I'm
Hi,
Julia.
Kia.
And Uncle JP. This is Eden. Thanks for the shout out. Can't wait to see you both again."
Oh, hi, Eden. I am super excited to see you. Please don't tell me that you're 5'11". I'll feel really intimidated. But yes, I'm really excited to see you and everybody.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be so fun.
Beaches will do that. Yeah. So we're a little laid back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So from the beach to the dark side.
Right.
What are we talking about today?
So there's a few different topics that, we felt that even outside of the footnotes podcast that we've been doing and the various audios that I sometimes do where you don't see my face and all you see is a graphic on a screen, but I talk. Even outside of that, like there's still more stuff that we needed to cover. And so we got up this morning with I'm 6 foot. I'm just kidding. I'm 5'5". Okay. Well, that's not too bad. That means you're only like 4 inches taller than me. But so outside of all that, there was still some topics that we wanted to address that we wanted to go over. We were going over some things this morning, and all of a sudden you dropped a bombshell on me and was like, why don't we do a bookmark today?
Right.
I was like,
well, we had.
Do you mean I have to shower? Well, actually, do my hair.
We had one scheduled anyway, but we were going to blow it off, but we didn't. Well, so one of the things that got us interested in this, actually, when we started talking about the subject today, how we got into this is we were listening to somebody talking about the injuries and deaths that have been going basically unreported. And I started thinking about, and I recently rewatched, rescreened our the Reason video, and I wanted to start the video there today with a portion of the Reason, but I'm not going to do that
with timing and everything.
Yeah, it's not necessary. You guys can go see it on YouTube or Rockfin. It's probably other places too, and it's about people dying without any sort of cause of death being given, right? There's no reason for their death given. And so one of the things that we were listening to today, you were like, you need to listen to this. And what was her name? Dr. Elizabeth
Eads.
Okay. She was talking about how 2 billion people worldwide will be dead within 5 years, in a 5-year period of time from the shots, the injuries,
and the
shots. That's her assessment,
based on the data that she's collected.
Exactly. So she's not, this isn't like fear-mongering stuff. She's just basically saying, based on what we know, and based on the data that's coming into the VAERS
right.
Database.
Oh, thanks, Michelle.
Which we know is skewed. Not enough reporting is happening. So they're basically basing it on that and some other data that they have for like a period of 1 year over a period of 5 years, extending that out and saying if it maintains this level of number of deaths, which it will and probably will increase, we're looking at 2 billion people worldwide that are going to be dying from these things. And so there's a lot of there's a real lack of discussion about this in the mainstream media. There's hints about it, they come out and they, like the New York Times morning email talked about auto collisions and auto crashes
that have exponentially increased
right
in the age of COVID.
And they're saying, but we just don't know why this is happening. And we know that these shots are affecting people's brain capacity, their cognizance, their cognition, and they're having a big effect on people. And there's other things. People are dropping dead on just drop dead, and they're coming up with these new terms like adult sudden death syndrome. Like, please,
or sudden adult death syndrome.
Sudden adult death syndrome.
So okay. So what I wanted to do was say this: Dr. Elizabeth Eads opines that 2 billion people worldwide will be dead in 5 years, and I really want to stress opines. That means that she's sharing an opinion. It will be dead in 5 years as a result of injury from the COVID shot. I would like to add to that that 2 billion people that could potentially lose their life and no longer be with us in the span of 4 to 5 years. I mean, some of that could be other reasons outside of the COVID shot, like, old age or, accidents or, whatever. So we should always keep things in that context.
Yeah, of course.
So injured people are cannibalized through the medical industry, and their paid off house, for instance, could be leveraged for paying off medical debts. They are the leftovers put on Social Security disability and drained by the medical system until they die. Right. So, all right. I didn't expect you to read that, but I was hoping that we could talk about that. What I can do, I just read the statement and then we can expand on that. Right. So you told me there was a tweet running around about how
we couldn't find any support for this, just the tweet, but there's reports out there that Germany is entertaining the idea of allowing mortgages to be placed on homes that have been paid for already for people who have been racking up hospital bills, and so much so that they can't pay those hospital bills, and so the mortgage is going to be placed on their house to start paying for that.
Right. So you have somebody who has a multitude of problems as a result of being injured from the COVID shot. Multitudes, because I know people personally who have, are perfectly healthy, young, living their life to the fullest, who are now have many problems, uterine problems, heart problems, autoimmune issues. And so it takes different specialists within the medical community, like doctors, to address each of those problems. And the bills are starting to really pile up. The insurances, and we'll get into this in a minute, but the insurance is denying those claims and saying, we're not going to cover that. So what the rumor is that there's this idea, and I think that given the fact that we live in a cannibalistic, capitalist society, it's probably going to go there, that, okay, you can't pay all your medical bills. Well, you own your own home, don't you? And your home is worth X amount of dollars. Why don't we go ahead and just refinance your home so that you can pay your medical bills? And so a lot of times when people hear the term, you will own nothing and be happy, which is a marketing term that was created by the World Economic Forum, a lot of times when people hear that, they think of rentership. They think of, I rent in my, little tiny boxed apartment in my 5-minute neighborhood where I don't even have to get on a train to go get groceries, or, go to the local, cafe, or go to the bookstore or the library. Everything's within a 5 to 10 minute walk of my house, of my front door. I own nothing, but hey, I'm happy. And I actually know people who live that existence. And I lived that existence for a while. And I also was very happy, where I didn't own anything. I had no car and no home that I owned. And I was within a 5-minute walk to my local produce, my cafe, my dry cleaners, my
nail salon, your
like,
bubble tea,
everything you can, I know, right? Everything that you could possibly imagine. And I owned nothing, and I was perfectly happy. I was a consumer, working to continue to put money back into the local economy, which was a 5-minute walk from my apartment. So, that a lot of people, when they think of you will own nothing and be happy, they think of that scenario.
Or they think about the extreme of the document that got put out by the World Economic Forum of, like, where you will rent everything you need.
So you'll have to rent your coffee pot for, $10 an hour.
And then you'll sublet or portion out, like, rental time to people to have meetings in your apartment when you're not there, and
to have a special meeting,
and all this bullshit.
And that stuff is actually already happening. But that aside, there is another aspect to you will own nothing and be happy, and that comes into the cannibalization of your life. So you will own nothing and be happy. You who have been triple vaccine injured or triple COVID shot injured, the medical industrial complex has now cannibalized you. You owe tons of money in medical bills. The insurance isn't paying for them. So we're going to go ahead and leverage your house and take with the value of your house and apply it towards your medical bills. But hey, you'll be happy because you'll be in the medical industrial complex getting much better. So you'll get well. We'll go ahead and fix your heart problems. We'll fix your uterine problems. We'll fix your myocarditis. We'll fix your autoimmune illness. And the medical community will make you happy, and you'll march to all your 14 specialists that you have to see every week, but you will own nothing because they're going to leverage your house. They're going to leverage your car. They're going to take things away from you. This is another aspect to the you will own nothing and be happy marketing campaign that's really trending a lot. And it especially trended like in 2020 and 2021. You don't hear it as much today, but I do believe that is upon us now.
Well, and we're seeing, we've been talking about this for a while, is like debt is becoming like a new, like the big industry, right? So we know that the medical industry is basically has replaced other industries. Like, for instance, here in Pittsburgh, the steel industry went away after NAFTA, and it was replaced with the medical and medical insurance industry, right? So we have two main major insurers. Like, you have one or the other. you have Pepsi or Coke,
right?
And
it's kind of late.
And then there's all these hospitals, and so basically, and you see the services all over the place for either one of them. So one is the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, and the other one is Allegheny Health Network, and they both have their like tentacles into just about everything that has to do with your health. And this has become one of those major industries that is going to financialize you over a course of a lifetime.
Cannibalize.
Well, I know, but I want to put that word cannibalize into context, because we're saying this, but what we're talking about is cannibalization of your life through financialization and debt. And we've been noticing debt as becoming a big thing for the last few years. 4 or 5 years ago, we started seeing a lot more ads for personal loans, and they're still out there. I get stuff on the regular in the mail. You qualify for $25,000 or whatever. Yeah. And so
they really want to push the debt industrial complex.
Now, and the other thing too is it extends into other parts of your life too. So for instance, we've talked about this before as well. You can't really get a decent job unless you have a good credit rating, right? They look at your credit rating. And if you have a bad credit rating or no credit rating at all, they're going to probably pass on you. There's a lot of things that people will not be able to do if they don't have any credit. And so
that's true.
And so they're making, our lives are being manipulated in these forms through healthcare or lack of healthcare initiatives, debt financing initiatives, and they cross over as well.
Right. So one of the things that I said, also a term that I've been kind of throwing around, and I said earlier that I really believe that some of the more popular podcasters are going to start using this term as well, is the animalization of
right. You were talking about that. So explain that idea.
So it goes along with the idea of the ESG concept, and ESG means the environmental sustainable governance. A lot of times podcasters call it sustainable development, which in 1998 that term was an official term, but it's kind of changed over time and evolved into the ESG goals. And so if you're in the corporate sector or you're in the ESG sector, you'll hardly ever hear the term in your internal memos and documentations. You'll hardly ever hear the term sustainable development. You'll hear ESG. That's what they use. So in the ESG framework, they have a goal, and the goal is a 5, 10, or 15 minute micro city within a bigger city. So within Chicago, you have tons of micro cities. San Francisco, the same way, tons of micro cities. It's been like that forever. And so what they want to do is really expand on that and really turn it into where you absolutely barely have to walk outside your front door in order to live a full life. And it feels almost as if the concept of life gets reduced to eating, sleeping
and working,
and maybe working and pooping, and that's it.
Yeah, and they're going to keep an eye on your poop too.
Right, through this. Well, not through this. But through your local water company, they're going to be
through the sewer. Yeah, through the.
So there's all sorts of initiatives there. But I guess what I'm trying to say is this is the animalizing of a human being. It's the equivalent of putting on a collar, and tracking your every move and making your life as simple as possible. They want to simplify your life down to nothing but shopping for food, sleeping in your shelter, and then expelling the food. And that's it. Just like a pet. You're a pet. You've become animalized. You're a pet to the ESG
You've
goals.
forgotten that you have to report for work. And
work becomes like something that is part of I guess, you can't you can't be a pet without the work. How's that?
Well,
you can't be a pet
I think,
without
but see, the thing, like what we talk about in globotics, right? Everybody's going to be working. Even after you've retired, you're going to be working. And there's even talk about the billionaire class are talking about uploading your consciousness to the cloud, that, and continuing getting more and more work out of you via that that way. This is what they want. It's not necessarily going to happen, but but it's working from your pod. And
it feels very animalistic, where they're just focusing on your basic most animalistic needs, which is just like eating.
Well, these things are already taking place.
Sleeping, and that's it. Like there's nothing else. Like there's no culture, no interaction, nothing fun, nothing good.
This is why they talk about AI going to be creating art, and all these things. But we're already helping this along by using Fitbits. And carrying these things around. These things don't help, but there's just going to have to be some resistance to this. And I keep coming back to, it's like, this is what they want, not necessarily what they're going to get.
Right.
But if we look at how things are playing out now, yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that we're all being financialized. We're being cannibalized through financialization. We're being turned into, pets, basically.
We make great pets.
We do make great pets. And, I mean, let's put it this way,
I just feel like half the time I really do feel like the ESG leaders, like we're talking about people who live on airplanes and have more money than God, right? I feel like sometimes they're looking down at society and they're just like some of them are totally disgusted by us, and some of them are really amused by us, and some of them are trying to figure out a way to really financialize us
or just get rid of us altogether.
I feel like we're pets. Yeah. I do. I feel like half the time we're performing for our keep.
Either that or we're wild animals like skunks. Like we had
a Stinky LePew. He keeps coming around.
We have a skunk that visits us every night, and
he loves our house because we have gardens everywhere.
He's eating my tulip bulbs.
Yeah,
and
that's what they eat.
Yeah,
it's your fault for planting them.
Okay.
That's that kind of same kind of logic.
Yeah.
So recently, and this is also kind of this is a little off track, but I want to say this
okay.
Anyway. The logic that's happening in today's society. So in our local neighborhood, some people were complaining about, suddenly out of nowhere, a large tarp was placed over the fence
of the high school,
of the local high school. And people are like, why are you covering the local high school fence with a large tarp? Why are you covering the fence? And one person joined in and said, why is everybody complaining? This is something that I've seen my whole life. This is something that is totally normal. Why is everybody upset about it? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking to myself, why is it okay? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Why? Just because you've seen it your whole life and you've experienced it your whole life and you went to a high school that did it doesn't mean that it's okay.
Right.
And so you got to apply that same kind of logic to everything else that's going on.
Right.
It's not okay to be a wage slave. It's not okay to earn $7.25 and try to hobble together 3 or 4 jobs. It's not okay to be told that in order to live a life, you have to get, something put inside your body against your will. We can't we have to stop normalizing things and accepting that, that's just the way things are. I mean, are you seriously gonna see the world in 20 years from now where everybody is, has lost their brain capacity because they've been smothering themselves for, and suffocating themselves for 20 years, and you're gonna walk around and say, well, that's just that's just the way it's always been. That's just normal. No, that's not normal, So that's the problem, is that we've been indoctrinated into normalizing the abnormal. We've been indoctrinating.
Well, and then they give it a new name. Every time there's something that's unusual that we haven't dealt with before, they just give it a new name. So, now it's the new normal, right? And, or it's sudden adult.
In 20 years, it's going to be something else.
Sudden adult death syndrome.
Right.
Right.
So
It's kids having heart attacks. Oh, well, kids have always had heart attacks.
Kids have always, keeled over and died from, heart attacks and heart events at age 8.
2-month-olds have their period,
Of course, it's totally normal. Like, come on, you guys, we have to get out in front of this and say, stop normalizing the abnormal.
Right.
That's not.
So I want to kind of finish up the injury conversation a little bit before we move on.
Mm-hmm.
So we joined a Facebook group called the injury died suddenly. So there's your sudden adult death syndrome. And we've been paying attention to a number of videos that are talking about the injuries. And there was something else that I wanted to bring up about that. So suddenly we're seeing the CDC and all these acronyms backing off from their policies, right? And
walking it back.
And we have Deborah Birx, right,
coming out and saying it was a big mistake,
right? And Fauci packing his bags and
he's resigning soon. Like, everybody knows this, right?
Everybody knows these things, but these all line up with other things that are going on. And and I think that between the unreported injuries, but there's that underlying thing that it's maybe not reported in the mainstream media, but it's going on under the radar, and it's having an effect. Okay. But the other thing that I pointed out to Julie, and this has to do with something else that I pointed out about a year or 6 months ago, and that is that because we live in a capitalist society, capitalism is going to step in and sort of take back what it has lost from all the lockdowns and all the things that were going on during the age of COVID. And so one of the things that I said was, the airlines are not going to put up with this shit anymore. And lo and behold, are like, you don't have to mask or show proof of anything when you go to, fly now. You still have to go through, TSA, which is bullshit. But, that narrative has continued. But the COVID narrative is dying back. The other thing that I said about 6 months ago to Julie, and it was, these initiatives and a lot of this crap that we're being forced into, especially the shots, the insurance companies are not going to put up with this,
right?
Because the injuries and deaths from these things, especially the life insurance companies, are certainly not going to be putting up with this. And it's gotten to the point now to where health insurance companies are not paying for vaccine related injuries.
Yeah. And taking a step even beyond that, I mean, insurance companies aren't paying in general. Like, I know somebody whose husband is dying of some kind of brain cancer. I mean, it has a long, complicated name, and out of the blue, and he gets treatments every month or so, and out of the blue, out of nowhere, the insurance company was just like, we're not going to pay it anymore. We're not going to pay for the treatments anymore. So she had to go through the patient advocacy program within the hospital and contact the insurance company and get other people involved until finally they turned around and they were like, okay, well, we'll cover it. And I'm thinking that, the insurance companies are told just deny everything and then make them fight it. And then we will eke out coverage. And that's
what they've done for years. And so it's the same old pattern. But I think also, though, they're seeing so many claims that are as a result of the bioweapon, right?
And they're seeing so many claims,
and so this is starting to affect policy in other areas because the hospitals now can't continue denying services because they're losing money as a result, right? And so everybody's losing money as a result of one industry making a killing. Right. Literally a killing.
Literally.
And so, basically, the pharmaceutical industry is making, huge profits on the backs of not only us, but other businesses and other. So, capitalism is sort of eating itself, I think. Not that I'm going to be expecting, that to go away anytime soon. But I can't say yay because, I'm against a lot of this. Well, all of it. But at the same time, I recognize that, we can't, just shut things down instantly, right? It's going to have to be a gradual thing if we're going to get anywhere. But,
Hello, Sean. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. We thought we'd sneak in under the radar. We're glad to see you. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm just kind of thinking out loud.
No, that's okay. Yeah. You really brought up this point like 6 months ago that the insurance companies were gonna just flat out say, we're done. Yeah, we're done with this nonsense. We're not gonna deal with this anymore. Like,
yeah, and
that's scary because now these poor people are really sick and they have no way to address all of these adverse reactions. And look, bioweapons and everything aside, there still is myocarditis, there still is cancer, there still is the allopathic industry that has been curated and marketed to treat these things, whether they really help or not is that's a debate that I don't want to get into right now. But the fact is that these people need access, or they feel that they need access to these, specialized treatments, and they're being denied. So because of COVID, things that are even outside of COVID or outside of the bioweapon are being denied, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And then so it's being used as an excuse.
Right. And so people are being denied coverage and at the same time being financialized, so more and more, so as people get sick, they, what was it? We were listening, you were reading something to me. It was from that Facebook group. And this woman was kind of giving her story, and she's basically, it sounds like she's living out of her car now.
Yeah, it's just awful, you guys. Like this group is just, and of course I keep everything, with a grain of salt.
Because it's social media.
Because it is social media. So you always have agents that are infiltrating every aspect of social media. It's part of the, weapons program of the Department of Defense is to put in influencers and to put in, provocateurs. And so when you have these kinds of groups that see explosive growth overnight, practically, I watched it go from 55K up to 65K in a matter of 24 hours. And I was like, wow, there must be a lot of people injured. I realized that there are some people in there that are probably not trustworthy.
They're probably AI agents and bots and then there's probably
but there are enough stories out there that are so heartfelt and real that that I stay in the group and read. It's bad news. What I'm seeing personally, and especially like this woman I know, when I go to pool class, this woman that does the water aerobics with me has a daughter who was of childbearing age, young, 20-something, pinnacle of her career, beautiful. Now has had a hysterectomy, has a heart stent, has to go in for cancer treatment. Like, you run the gamut of it all. And then, of course, the woman comes out repeatedly and says, it's not because of the bioweapon. It's not because of this. It's not because of that. So she's in deep denial that her only daughter, her only precious daughter, is now cannibalized for the medical industry. She, has to go to different specialists on different days for different ailments. But of course, none of it has to do with the thing that everybody was told that they needed to take, or that it was approved to take in September of 2021, which was approved under the patent language as a toxin. And if you look up the actual definition of toxin, it's certainly not vaccine. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah.
So one thing too that I wanted to mention.
Yeah, go ahead.
Should I talk about this dude?
Yeah.
And all the weirdness around that.
Yeah, because it has to do with what we're talking about.
A little bit.
Sure. Yeah.
A little bit. Okay. Yeah. So this is a little political, and we're not that political. We could really care less about who's running, who's not running, and who's popular and all that. But let's talk about everybody's favorite governor, DeSantis. So back in 2018, Florida Statute 281.00315 gives a Florida state health officer authority to intervene when an alleged contagion is present. All right, so 2018, Florida had a law that basically said, hey, look, if there's a pandemic, if there's a contagion, if there's a sickness, if there's an illness, we're going to give the authority to the health officer. And it just, the language wasn't really, it wasn't really specific. Well, they tightened up that language and they made it much more specific when everybody's favorite Florida piece of legislation, which was passed in June of 2021, said that SB 2006 empowered a state Florida health officer under appointment by the Surgeon General to quarantine, isolate, and forcibly vaccinate any individual they deem to be a health threat. All right. And so why was the medical community and the freedom community so excited about SB 2006? Because they also included language that vaccine passports were unlawful and that there would be no vaccine passports required for anything you do in life. So everybody was celebrating that because everybody thinks that vaccine passports are kind of a thing. And I'm telling you, the technology to make the thing is more difficult and more costly and is cost prohibitive. Okay. So I feel like the term vaccine passports or digital IDs or things like that are kind of a ruse to get people distracted from body autonomy.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. So, but DeSantis being the laser sharp focus that he is, my friend Michelle and I were actually kind of talking about him. We think that he might actually be a little bit on the spectrum. Like if you've ever dealt with people like in a work environment or in a professional environment and they're a little on the spectrum, they are.
Oh, this is Governor DeSantis.
Yeah, that they really pay attention to the details. So in June of 2021, SB 2006 was passed. It approved for a state health officer appointed by the Surgeon General to have the authority to basically incarcerate and quarantine and forcibly vaccinate people who felt that they were a threat to their environment, or if some sort of pandemic was announced and people refused to cooperate, that the health officer could intervene and force those people to cooperate. DeSantis came out 6 months later in November of 2021, and he passed SB 8B, which is the removal of the state health officer or the Surgeon General to have any such authority. But he kept the vaccine passport, the unlawful vaccine passport language, he also kept that in there. So I guess what I want to do is I want to illustrate how with these things, there's like a protocol, so taking the focus off of, Florida and DeSantis for a minute, like this is how things work, right? So in 2018, they had a thing. And then in 2021, they took the thing and they expanded on it. And then and then 6 months later after that, they took this big expanded thing and they brought it back down to reality. And so that's kind of where we live now. And so it feels like that's how laws are made in general. It feels like that's how things work, you know?
And, what I would like to know is you pointed out to me earlier that New York went through a similar thing.
Right. New York went through a similar thing. So
which one happened first?
I think the Florida one happened first. And so New York took Florida's cue and then was like, okay, we're not going to do that. Or maybe it was the other way around. Maybe New York did it. It's probably that New York did it first.
Right.
Like we're not going to give the authority to a state health officer who is appointed by the Surgeon General. And I want to talk about the current Florida Surgeon General in 1 minute. We're not going to do that. We're not going to give the authority to isolate, quarantine, incarcerate, and forcefully vaccinate anybody in any way. So we're going to take away the power from those people, that unelected power. Right. So that's good.
Yeah.
Right. So that's good. So, but the Florida Surgeon General, the current Florida Surgeon General, had to go through a confirmation hearing in January of 2022. And his name is Joseph Lopatto. And when he was asked during his confirmation hearing, he was asked 5 times if he believed that the vaccines, or we call them bioweapons or toxins or COVID shots, are effective against COVID-19. And he refused to give a yes or no answer. This is a very corporate response to when corporations do bad things. They basically just plead the fifth. They don't say yes, they don't say no. So, I thought that was really interesting. And then, of course, we can get into, who he is. So here he is representing the health of the state of Florida. And how do I go here without, and he's a black man, right?
Okay, yeah.
And we also have, now check this out. This is not written in our notes, but because I'm just now realizing this weird kind of correlation and connection, we also have the mayor of DC refusing to, last I heard, maybe this, and again, I this is all sorts of opinion that gets trending on Twitter. The mayor of DC saying that unless children in DC are vaccinated, they can't go to school. And a bunch of people ran the data and ran the statistics and discovered that percentage is 40%, and the majority of the children that are not vaccinated and thus cannot go to school are Black.
Right. Yeah.
So how much you want to bet those parents are going to yank those kids and go to Florida and be like, well, this Surgeon General in Florida is not only, Black, because I feel like he would have the Black population's interest at heart, just,
well, that doesn't necessarily wash.
I know, but seriously, people on Twitter are saying why. Okay, here's what happened. The Heritage Foundation, which is the architect of the horrible insurance bailout called the Affordable Care Act. That's a horrible, horrible piece of legislation. And it's law now. It's called the Affordable Care Act. The Heritage Foundation was retweeting this and saying, why is the mayor of DC keeping Black children from an education? So the Heritage Foundation is saying that. And they're a right-wing think tank.
Well, so think about it though, Julie. This is political theater. They're only saying that because it allows them to pick, take pot shots at the Democrats.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's what that's all about. Heritage Foundation is they don't give a shit about that.
Yeah. Well, they're using those talking points, and I'm bringing it up because I feel like there is a there there. I feel like there's something there.
Right. Okay. So. Yeah, and I think that what's going on politically and legally in the background is really having an effect on why we're seeing Fauci pack his bags and why we're seeing the CDC backpedal and all these things going away. I mean, I'm waiting for them to take down their page about zombies, but we'll see. But what I want to emphasize though, a lot, and this is something we come back to all the time, and that is that we are not going to be affected by you're not going to be thrown into a FEMA camp. You're not going to have jackbooted thugs kick down your door and drag you off,
and your guns aren't getting taken away.
And your guns are not going to be taken away. These laws or these things that were put in or talked about being put in, they never happen or they get changed. That may not be the case all the way across the board, but a lot of times these things are put into place to get you freaked out, and and it basically allows it not just to freak you out, but to allow them to say, well, we're just putting this on the table so that we can do this in the future. We don't want to do it right now, but it may happen in the future. For instance, California and their law about water. We still haven't heard anything about people having their water rationed, 60 gallons per day.
Okay.
So
that applies to everything too, JP.
But what I'm trying to say is they pass these laws to put them on the table and say, this is possible for us to do in the future. We may not do it now, but we reserve the right to do it.
Right. Just like refusing to allow a major portion of the DC population to enter into school.
Right.
Like if we allow this now, even though it's not law, we set the precedence for, expanding that population into kids that we deem to be troubled. I mean, we're already seeing that. That seems to be already happening now.
Well, so I guess what I'm trying to say is it's always the mundane that's going to affect you far more than these crazy stories that you may think or hear about. Okay. And like, you know, we were talking about vaccine passports and they just never became a thing.
They never will.
And they never will. But you know what will become a thing?
Debt.
Well, debt, but the real ID. The real ID is basically what vaccine passports were intending to be.
Right.
Right. The real ID, you know, you have to have a real ID or a passport, starting May next year, in order to fly to different states
within your own country,
within San Francisco, within the United States.
So within your own country, you have to have a special ID in order to go from, say, New York to California, or from, you know, Pennsylvania to Florida, or from Rhode Island to, you know.
This is where we get fascism.
Wherever. Yes, that is what fascism looks like, people.
Right. This is, you know, fascism is mundane. Fascism comes through the everyday, not the crazy. Okay. And so that's what we're talking about. Like, you know, we don't get vaccine passports, but you get the real ID. And I'll tell you what, the real ID has been like bouncing around for
since
about
2005.
20 years. Yeah. And people were like, fuck that.
Yeah.
I'm not
people
getting
wouldn't
that.
do it. They just flat out refuse.
Yeah.
I'm refusing. I'm getting a passport.
You know? I mean, I got a regular driver's license when I came to Pennsylvania. I had to, you know, surrender my California license. And so I you know, but they're like, if you do blah, 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 if you bring such and such a paperwork, you can get a real ID. And I'm like, oh, you mean I have to jump through a flaming hoop just to be, surveilled even more? You know, awesome. But, you know, here's the other thing too. You know, the federal government is starting to make you do things like, what's it called? Like the ID me.
Right. ID me.
ID me. Who names this shit?
I know, right?
ID me is like
terrible.
It's basically facial recognition. It's what do they call that? Biometrics. Thank you. To register your face so you can fucking pay your taxes or whatever, you know, or whatever it is you need to do now, you know, if you interface with the federal government online or what have you. And so, you know, it's these little things that sneak in under the radar, these little practices, these little, you know, to use the sort of, in quotes, woke language, these microaggressions that the state.
Yeah. If anybody's doing a microaggression, it's the state against you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So what else do we have on here?
Well, you know, we've been talking about ESGs.
Oh, right. You're going to read that email.
And
we're going to thank Michelle for bringing to our attention the September rollout of green jobs in Pittsburgh.
Well, so let me bring this up first then. And we want to thank Michelle for sending us this, the September Global Clean Action Forum. And I'm going to share
your screen.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, we get a Chrome tab. And okay, so this is an organization called Sustainable PGH. And when they say PGH, they mean Pittsburgh. This is their mission statement. And I'm going to go over here and read it.
Are you going to read that email too?
I will, yeah. Okay. So sustainable communities meet the needs of the present without sacrificing the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. These include, and I have to say, this is one of the more poorly written ESG type of document I've seen before. But anyway, these include environmental needs, healthy ecosystems, social needs, e.g. opportunities and resources for all, and economic needs. Public, private, and nonprofit organizations play essential roles in supporting sustainable communities by reducing their resource use, growing quality jobs, promoting diversity and inclusion, and other tactics. Wonder what those are. But if you go over to their history, this thing has been around for a while, and it's about, you know, it's basically, it started where, and we talked about this in September 1998. Where a community, oh, you're not on that page, are you? Are you? Yeah, you are. Okay, great. Where a community of civic leaders organized several days of visioning and introducing concepts of sustainability to the Sustainable Pittsburgh. Okay, but what I want to come up here is
the TED Center.
The organization was an outcome of the Pittsburgh visit of the President's Council on Sustainable Development in September 1998. So
that's a long time ago.
So sustainable development has been around for a while.
And the term.
Yeah, and the term, and so what I noticed were some of the terms. They don't have a lot of the buzzwords that you see normally on these kinds of sites. But this is basically going to be a thing that's taking place in September for like a week.
Are you gonna go?
Yeah, actually, I was going to sign up for it, but then I forgot. Then I missed it.
It's a pathway to progress. Mm-hmm. Oh man! So the marketing around this and the slick design around this is so that's where all the money goes,
right?
And nobody's going to actually see jobs or
And so we don't want to come off as being anti-environmental. I've been a non-environmentalist my entire life. But what I want to say is that a lot of this stuff is, just talking points. It's just basically talk. Or again, we're talking about financialization of people through initiatives like this. So, for instance, one of the things that Corey Morningstar has talked about in the past is that things like pension funds. Mm-hmm. Are being looted by investors or by basically. So the teachers union pension fund, they took money out of carbon-based industries like coal and oil, mm-hmm. and put them into green technologies like solar, wind, and carbon. What is it? The carbon when they sequestration. Yeah, right. And these and carbon sequestration isn't even an industry yet. I mean, it's just theoretical. But basically, the money gets again cannibalized, mm-hmm. and taken out of those pensions, so that the investors don't have to invest their own money on risky things like green technologies. And then if that stuff goes belly up or it doesn't work out, the investors aren't out of any money.
No.
But all the pensioners are.
Right.
Okay. So this is the kind of thing that we're talking about.
Yeah.
This thing here, the Plastics Collaborative, mm-hmm. everything. Okay. One of the things you never hear, you always hear about carbon, right? Here's the decarbonization playbook, but you never hear about pollution. But when you do hear about pollution, it's plastic pollution. And plastic pollution is just it's just people just talking bullshit, because if you're going to talk about plastic pollution, then you have to talk about the manufacture of plastic. You have to talk about oil. You have to talk about everything that's associated with plastic, not just the fact that there's, mm-hmm. Plastic floating around in the oceans that an animal might ingest. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so again, it's always very surface level. It's always very just platitude. And we're basically, this will be the kind of thing, people go to conferences and, forums and things like this. They get all excited. They get all revved up. They take their notes and all, they got their tote bag, and they go back and nothing is done. Mm-hmm. Right. And this is like that video that we did with Tori Evening Star. What was it called? Not Sustainable Cities, but Resilient Cities. Resilient
was
Cities.
Our cartoon.
And it was basically, I missed that too. Yeah, we go back and watch that one. Resilient Cities. And it's the same kind of thing where these people will put together these reports, and they'll make a big report for the city for being resilient. It gets put on a shelf, and lots of money was spent doing it, and lots of people made some money putting it together, but it never really goes anywhere.
It's a really good example of what you just said, of encapsulating everything you just said. Can we put ourselves back on the screen so we can see the chat?
Okay.
Okay. So, we're familiar with DJ Melissa.
Yeah.
So the what you just said can be encapsulated completely with believe it or not, the houses that were built after Katrina, and
right.
Pitt was the face of it. So he marketed, and he was the media guy, and he promoted the idea of these solar homes, post Katrina. And it turns out that he's being sued. He's being sued because of the
yeah, no, I know.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just looking at this comment. He's being sued because of the greenhouses that were built in after post Katrina.
Yeah, let me.
And there were probably like just a handful of them.
Yeah, just a handful. But let me read the. Let me read the headline. Okay, Brad Pitt settles the lawsuit over defective New Orleans homes, and this is from last week. This is literally from like 6 days ago.
And it was funny because Julie and I were talking about Brad Pitt and his stupid houses,
right?
Not 2 weeks earlier.
When did Katrina happen?
That was like what, 2004?
Was it post 9/11 or pre 9/11?
No, it was post 9/11.
Was it really?
Yeah, I think it was like
pre 9/11.
No, I think it was like 2004.
Really?
Yeah, because George Bush was the president.
I think it was before 9/11. You guys, help us out.
2006.
2005.
2005.
Okay. So it took. Thank you, Michelle. JP was right. It was post 9/11. So it took how long? From 2005 until 2022 for them to settle the lawsuit on the fraudulent greening of New Orleans.
Yeah. So
imagine, you're dealing with this greening stuff. Like we're dealing with, it's coming. It's right around the corner. It's literally happening in Pittsburgh in September, which is like in 3 days. There's so much fraud wrapped into it and wrapped around it. If it took 20 years or 15 years for them to settle a lawsuit with the fraudulent greening of a few homes in Katrina, imagine what's going to happen with, when you start to green everything.
Well, we're talking, I think especially when like pension funds get rated and put into these technologies, people are going to be dead by the time the lawsuit.
You'll have to go back and listen, Michelle, because we just went through all of it. But I guess you were busy chatting with your new friend Melissa. I don't know, so you'll have to go back and listen.
Yeah, no. Well, you may know that Brad Pitt was the face of some greenhouses back in 2005, 2006. They were these post Katrina, solar and all the gugas, all the sustainable gugas were involved with that, and so if you can imagine, like if there's a lawsuit about the pensions getting rated and not paying dividends of any kind, a lot of people will be dead if that's the track record. Like, what is that? 15 years, 20 years? Like, 18 years basically, right? And so, that's a generation right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Boy, it's going to be bad news, guys.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, and of course, I feel like once again, if it's not San Francisco, then it's Pittsburgh. I mean, we had somebody else who follows us and a friend say to us, man, you guys just literally jumped out of the frying pan
and into
the fire when you moved to Pittsburgh. Right. Like, it is so corrupt here.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous.
However, this forum that's going to go on is nothing more than just a forum. It's not going to produce much of anything. It's going to produce, some more white papers. It's going to basically maybe create some funding for, some jobs initiatives that, a few people or a handful of people in Pittsburgh are going to get.
And it's going to be really high paying jobs.
And the thing is this organization, this Sustainable PGH, they've been around for years, like since 1998. And honestly, this is the first time I've ever heard of them, right? So, these are the kinds of nonprofits that we're talking about that get funding through foundations and government grants and things of that nature. They maybe employ a few people, they do a few things here and there, but overall there's no giant impact. But it keeps that money rolling in. It keeps financializing the idea of sustainability. And by the way, to quote an architect, William McDonough, who's the green architect, he's like one of the first green architects. He's like, would you describe your marriage as being sustainable? So, sustainable is a shitty word to describe what they're trying to accomplish. But then again,
sustainable?
Is your marriage? Yes, our marriage, Julie, our marriage, it's sustainable.
Yes, it's sustainable. That's so weird.
So,
it's totally thriving.
Well, that's just it. And
you
so
should have a thriving life.
But see, he's like
infrastructure.
Exactly.
Not just sustainable.
Thank you. That's exactly it. So what he's saying is that, sustainable is a lousy word for what they're trying to accomplish. But if you think about it, organizations like the Sustainable Pittsburgh PGH, Sustainable PGH, they are meeting that actual meaning of the word sustainable. They are sustaining their own existence. They are sustaining the idea of sustainability. They are sustaining. So this is what I'm talking about.
It's like the snake eating its own tail.
Right. Well, money is being made for doing nothing. Right. And that's what a lot of this shit is all about. Okay. So I got an email. I get these emails from this dude that I knew long ago when I was actually involved in some of this bullshit. I had a business and I applied to, I started getting into the green business circles. And I realized what a fraud it was after a while. So I still get these emails. We sent him our newsletter,
and he
unsubscribed immediately, right? Because he was like, he thinks that we're
well, who knows what he thinks. Yeah, I don't think he thinks we're conspiracy theorists. I think he just thinks that what we focus on isn't that important.
Well, I think he thinks we're Trump supporters too, which I'm not sure why he thinks that. But anyway, so he has these emails he sends out called the ESG battle rages on. And so he says, the ESG battle rages on. I've written before about the fierce debates over ESG within the community. And by community, he means the green business or green community. But it's pretty fierce outside too.
Fierce.
Florida governor. So here's our buddy again. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
Everybody's favorite whipping boy.
Well, I mean, okay, we'll use the A word again. We're anarchists. We don't give a shit. So anyway.
But still, I mean, he is being lifted up as the new foil, right?
Well, he's being lifted up as like the greatest thing since, sliced bread.
Or the
opposite,
other way.
Right?
Believe me, there are so many hit pieces on him.
Right, of course.
Right now.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
But I don't trust the man either. He's a politician. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, and then in parentheses, whom the despicable Alex Jones calls better than Trump, and his state, orange mad bad. This is the attitude of the, they don't have any other like there's nothing.
Orange man bad.
Right. There's no nuance outside of that. This is just black or white. Okay. And his state board of administration have directed the state's pension funds, to focus only on highest possible financial returns and to not, and now in quotes, corporate power, and not to use corporate power to impose ideological agenda on the American people through the perversion of financial investment priorities under the euphemistic banners of environmental, social, and corporate governance, and diversity, inclusion, and equity. Now, that was partially a quote from DeSantis himself. Now, back to this dude. The woke wars, he puts in quotations. And like we said the other day on one of our audios, woke is only a buzzword that the right seems to use and that the left never uses. But he's using it in these quotations because he knows the right uses it. The right,
Look at how the right wing describes us.
Yeah. Look at how
they're so dumb. They use this whole
woke
groups
thing.
Like, what is woke?
Right. So the woke wars, in quotes,
yeah, me too.
Aside, there are false premises and fierce failure of fiduciary duty embedded in this move, which presumes that the environmental and social concerns are inevitably ideological, when in fact often fall to fiduciary duty. ESG points, albeit poorly, to a cascade of material risks, climate, natural disasters, read disaster capitalism, supply chains, and he puts in parentheses, how's ship traffic in a dry Rhine River working out for you, Herr Bunky?
Huh?
Well, I guess there's some, because it's so hot in Europe these days, anyway, another myth. Anyway, energy, like the river is going to evaporate. Energy supply, soil productivity, and the viability and livability of cities. There's cities, right? livable cities. That's something else we've talked about. The ability to recruit and retain talent. Oh, and this is something else we talked about, and I'll get to that in a second. Cost credit. So I could go on, and so could you. So basically, he's aligning himself with the idea that it's okay to raid pensions to put into green technologies.
That's the whole point of this.
Exactly.
Message from
and to corporate responsibility and social responsibility and these kinds of things. All these things are put into place to corporatize the idea of humanity and to bring in more conformity, right? And get away from the idea of society and family ties and
you will
families
have nothing and be happy
and all that kind of stuff. And so he's like, in banning consideration of such material concerns, DeSantis is, of course, imposing his own ideological agenda, a trend that will need to be stopped by voters. Are you registered? Oh, so now here's the classic liberal, like, you got to vote. But these are the same people that say you got to vote with your dollar. And by hard-nosed, bottom-line focused business leaders who understand that they need to manage for the future, not the past. And it goes on. So, a lot of the same tropes and bullshit that these kind of folks
it's really insidious language. Like it's really like, if you're not familiar with the way these people talk, you wouldn't hear what we're hearing, which is that you really have to give up your assets in order to save the planet. Like, you really need to do that and invest in these different technologies.
This is, once again, this is the investment class telling us how to live and really having an effect over our lives, and arguing over what gets invested in. Julie's turned me on, and we've been let me rephrase that. Told me about, and we've been listening to
sometimes reluctantly listening.
Exactly. This video podcast called All In, and it's all these like investor class dudes, right? So some
former
Facebook VP and some other folks, and they come from different political perspectives, but they're all the investment class. And I like them because they're very specific and down to brass tacks kind of like attitude about their perspective, but they also give a new spin on things that I never considered. And because I'm not a capitalist, it's nice to hear that capitalist point of view, so I understand a little better what they're thinking and what's going on in the background.
Yes.
But they never talk about this kind of shit because I think they know that it's bullshit.
They know it's bullshit. They have come out and said that, actually.
Have they?
They have.
Yeah.
There is also, a lot of language that, they go into this language that I learned about in 2015 about, what the end of empire looks like. And so they often just use one of them, Friedberg, he actually goes there. He's like, look, this is what the end of empire looks like. This is what happens when you close a society.
Other people have been saying that as well. And you saw a meme. You showed me a meme the other day. It said, what a life. It's like living at the end of the Roman or the fall of the Roman Empire,
except with Wi-Fi. That was from Dawn, our friend Dawn. So thank you for that, Dawn. That gave me a good laugh.
I laughed out loud.
Right. I woke JP up. I laughed so hard when I woke JP up, and he laughed.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. So, there's so many things involved, and that are happening, and it seems as though there's different things happening every day. For instance, there's no there when it comes to the student debt relief program. There is literally no there.
We talked about this the other day, didn't we?
Right.
Yeah.
So,
or you did. Yeah.
It's impossible to move forward into this kind of thing when it's just dictated as sort of like an executive order. You saw how well that went when Biden tried to do an executive order for vaccine mandates or something.
Right.
And everybody was just like, nope. And they just shot it down. The Supreme Court shot it down. So they're probably going to attempt to shoot down this paltry, pathetic, debt relief offering, which only goes up to $10,000.
Right. And it's just basically placating the base.
Right. And it's a political move.
Right. And we know, and as I mentioned, I think we were talking about this together, and I mentioned from the New York Times or whatever, that basically, this thing could be tied up in legislation or in legal, legal battles or
legal battles.
I was trying to find the actual word for that, but
lawsuits.
There's lawsuits going to be filed and that kind of thing, and it'll be tied up for years, and nobody's ever going to see it. And so it's just placating the base while pissing off the opponents, right? And so it's
So Melissa says that, hey, I wanted to like your page but I was told that you violate community standards.
We do that a lot.
Yeah, well. We're proud of that.
We're actually kind of proud of that. But our YouTube channel is hanging by a thread. Both of them, in fact.
Yeah, well, we have. Who knows? This could be the this could be the thing that pushes it over the edge.
It could. Yeah.
What do you say, YouTube?
Yeah. What about it?
What do you say?
They don't like us because and the thing that's interesting is they'll go back like a couple of years. In fact, we got a strike a few months back for something we produced 8 years ago or something like that. I don't remember. Or it was a copyright thing.
Right.
And it was something we produced a long time ago.
Yeah. They just they pick through the past and go through and see. But one thing too that I talked about in the audio, which I'll bring up again, and then we'll probably end up closing this out because it's been about 90 minutes.
Yeah, we're heading up on the 90-minute mark soon. Yeah.
Is the fact that there's this weird lawsuit happening where Twitter is attempting to sue or has started the process of suing Elon Musk.
Right. Oh, let's talk about that. Yeah.
And so on its face, it's like, okay, Twitter is suing Elon Musk. What's that about? So what happened is the most sought after security contractor in the world was hired by Jack Dorsey, who's the original CEO of Twitter. Surprisingly, he comes with a pretty steep price tag. And then a year later, Jack Dorsey quit. And then 3 months after that really well sought after a security expert was let go by the new Twitter owners, and so it's like, well, what does that have to do with Elon Musk? I kind of feel like, and this is me just speculating, I feel that Elon Musk probably paid for that guy to be in place because he does come with such a steep price tag. He's the best in his field,
and he's not just going to go work for anybody,
right? And so Twitter is nothing compared to Facebook, Google, or Apple. Twitter is super small potatoes compared to these other behemoths.
They're kind of considered a unicorn company.
Yeah, they're really just kind of so. So Twitter, I think, as a result of a breach of privacy or something, is going after Elon Musk for that. But within the language of the lawsuit, what was disclosed, and this information has been shared all over the public forum, all over the New York Times, CNN, CNBC, MSNBC, every major news outlet is covering this. Within those disclosures that this security expert then dumped into the hands of mainstream narrative media was a small little information about foreign agents that Twitter had literally opened the door to foreign agents and allowed them to come in and occupy that company and do whatever, collect data. They were using the direct message application on Twitter in order to spy on people and see what people were saying. Naomi Wolf has come out and showed that, Twitter had an actual conversation with, an agent of our state to undermine her specifically. Like they used her tweets specifically. So this is all outside of your liberal democracy. This operates outside of your autonomous protections, and of course your First Amendment right to free speech, and of course your right to privacy. And so the question that came out with the investor class, when they started to really peel back the onion and see what was in this lawsuit and within these disclosures that this security expert had shared with the media, was this information. Like they looked at it and they were like, what other companies are being occupied by foreign agents? Has Google also opened their door to foreign agents? And they themselves will admit outright that Google and the government are, totally hand in hand. Is our government operating against us through our social media presence, through our technology? Are they operating against us because they're working in tandem with foreign agents that have been allowed to trickle in under the radar? Like, what the fuck is going on? If Twitter, as this small little unicorn, know-nothing social media space where we only have 300 followers, is going to allow
I'm waiting
this.
For my blue check.
I know,
I'm
right?
waiting.
I'm waiting. If they're going to allow foreign actors to come in and spy on your direct messages in Twitter, then what the hell else is going on with Google, with Gmail, with Apple, with Facebook? I mean, we can all assume that there's agents within the Facebook platform, but
and Gmail,
and then to what end? Like,
right.
Like what is the ultimate what's the end of the story here? Is it just that, okay, well, no big deal, you get foreign agents coming in and they occupy the space and they're given a paycheck and they're given citizenship, okay, through US corporations, it's no big deal, nobody gets hurt, and you have proof of that, then okay, I guess. But the investor class were like, this isn't good. Of course, they're libertarians, and so they're.
Well, some of them are. I mean, they come from different.
That's true. One of them's a Trump supporter.
Yeah.
So they're. Yeah. So they brought all these points up, and this is and these are points that I had all along too.
Because you've been talking about like fast tracking of individuals who are from other that are foreign nationals who are being fast tracked into the United States so that they can work in industry, especially in tech. And I think
tech in the defense industry.
And I think maybe we saw some of those foreign agents that went to Twitter, Julie, at the farmers market in San Francisco that one time.
Right.
Those Eurotrash looking dudes.
Right. So
they look pretty hinky.
So San Franciscans don't, like they have a lot of money, but they don't dress like it.
Yeah,
and especially on an early Sunday morning when they have their little basket bags and they're putting flowers and produce and their
canvas bags
and they have their big hats to protect them from the sun, and they're talking to the egg lady
when there's sun.
And they're just it's just like they're cute. It's a cute little neighborhood, where we lived across the street from it. And one day I saw a few, like more than three, maybe.
Yeah, it was probably half a dozen.
A few of these guys that looked like Eurotrash. They did
so
not fit in.
Like, they looked came from a nightclub like the night before.
And they were doing the weirdest things. They were like running up and down the farmer's market. They had a lot of like really weird energy about them. They were doing this and they were like checking things out and almost like they were mapping our farmer's market. And I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, this is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Yeah. And of course, because I'm who I am, I pay attention to stuff like that. But I don't think anybody else at the market really cared.
No, because they're very self-absorbed there. So
yeah, it's true. So, I think that, look, we don't have any problems with people coming into the United States for opportunity. They go through the proper channels. They start working and earning an income. Typically, these are the people that, wash your dishes and make your burritos.
And pick your strawberries.
And pick your strawberries.
The things that you're not going to do.
Exactly. And these are the people that go through the proper,
sometimes.
They typically, they want citizenship. So they have to go through the courses and memorize the history of the United States and pass the citizenship protocols and testing. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about people that, come from, tech backgrounds, have excellent educations, come from good money in the Middle East or in China
or India,
mm-hmm. and they show up and they're stamped and fast-tracked into positions through the FBI, through tech, through education. They're everywhere, and they're fast-tracked. And so, they're handed cell phones and jobs, cell phones, cars, apartments, and jobs.
And so why is that, right? Why are these people being put into these places? I have to say, I mean, I had a friend in a tech type of job, a user and experience designer. He's from India, and he had to regularly, update, check in and get his visa updated and all that kind of thing.
So he was going through the proper channels.
He was like doing
we're
it
not
normally.
talking about people like him.
Right, not at all. But
he wasn't a high income earner.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But these people, and so and this was speculated before by other people, not us, but other people that we, when we first heard about this, that these people are being fast tracked into these positions so they can do the very thing that we were just talking about. So they go into Twitter. Twitter says, "Come on in, mm-hmm. everything's available." And there was another story that you mentioned that these guys were talking about where some dudes from China were in Apple, and they were like collecting all this stuff, and it was like basically industrial espionage. And
absolutely.
And I don't know who let them in. Nobody knows.
The FBI had to go run after them.
Hey, wait, guys, wait.
Before you go back to China and take all of our information and all of our, what is it?
TSA, can you hold these guys?
So what is it when you have a thing that you've created that's
with intellectual property?
Yeah, before they take our intellectual property at Apple and then copy it to China. So we're not, bashing other countries.
We're not bashing foreign nationals. We're bashing anybody.
Our own country for being so lackadaisical about, allowing people, whether they are within our borders or without, for allowing them to, kind of change the way that things are done in our own country, mm-hmm. or they're just full on taking.
I guess what it comes down
stuff,
to is
I know it does sound like the Three Musketeers. It's ridiculous.
What I think it comes down to for us is it's not about companies losing intellectual property or companies doing these.
Somebody think of the the multi-billion-dollar corporation.
But like, what is that? What is that information that's being taken? What is the spying being done? And one of the things that Apple's always talking about is your information is secure with us, and it's like, oh really?
No, it's not.
Is it?
No.
Is it? Mm-hmm. And
obviously not.
We are consumers of these devices, and we participate in these communications, and we use these on the daily basis. And again, coming back to the mundane. So what it comes down to me is that my privacy is being violated, my autonomy is being trampled on. True, I've signed up for these things. I've participated in capitalism to this point, and so I have to expect to get what I might get. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I don't expect for these companies to violate their own rules and regulations, their own rules of corporate governance, their own ways of doing business, in order to allow foreign nationals that have what agenda I have no idea over to take this information about me or anyone else or whatever and do whatever with it whatever they want.
Right.
So there's a lot of talk about global takeover by somebody or another. I don't think it's any one player, but I have a feeling that this kind of stuff plays into that, and that all this data is basically part of that overall strategy for doing what they're going to do. So the COVID narrative or the COVID action was one of those things, and who knows what's next, So yay. So let's talk about the beach again.
I know, right?
Well, we are coming up on the 90-minute mark.
Yeah,
and so I wanted to say thank you. Do you have anything else?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. I would say that thank you for joining us for yet another bookmark. Our monthly, it's now our monthly video podcast show.
Our monthly sesh.
Yeah, our sesh. Yeah. But if you're interested, you can get a sample of what we do audio wise on our Friday footnote freebies. Or freebie footnote Fridays or whatever.
Friday freebie footnote.
Oh, okay. So the 3 F's, but they give you a sample of what a footnote is all about. Footnote is about the same length as this show was. They tend to be about 90 minutes, and we take a topic or a series of topics and break them down like we did today, and but in audio format.
Yeah, in audio format.
So you don't see us, but you hear us, and we have this available for Rockfin subscribers who subscribe to Rockfin for $9.99 a month. And if you're a subscriber to us on Patreon, you get access to these things as well. Eventually, we're going to get these out onto the podcast channels out there. But again, it will be behind a paywall. So if you're really interested in what we have to say, you can either wait next month for the next bookmark, or you can listen to a freebie, or you can pony up some filthy lucre and help us out. Okay, and then you get to hear our sparkling voices over the airwaves.
Yeah. Well, hi, Live Alive. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, this wasn't really announced or
yeah, we kind of were like,
we just kind of sprung it on everyone.
It's a bookmark day. Hey?
Yeah, so
yeah.
So go if you're just joining, we're ending now, so go back and watch from the beginning.
Yeah.
I hope everything is going well on your end, especially.
Yeah.
Well, I think what I'll do is I will close out footnote on another bookmark. Excuse me. I will close out bookmark on another like super happy note about a little kid.
Okay.
I started this program announcing how great it was to have these amazing children in my life and be related to them. And so let's end the broadcast talking about baby M.
Okay. Real quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really quick. So baby M is about a year old. He lives right next door to us. Very tragic and scary little life before he's even a year. So his mother gave birth to him and then abandoned him at the hospital. Didn't even sign a birth certificate. Didn't even give him a name. No name. So he was put into the custody of his grandmother, who's probably about my age, right? Yeah, probably about my age.
She was actually between our ages. So, okay. Yeah, her sister's a couple of years older than me, and I was a little older than the
right. So anyway, she's mid to late 50s, probably late 50s. Anyway, had custody of little baby M. Everything was going fine. All of a sudden, she dies in her sleep. So the state of Pennsylvania swooped in and wanted to capture baby M and put him into the custody of the state. But the family rallied and intervened, and the cousin of baby M, who is an adult woman who has adult children of her own, was able to
take him in. The cousins were passing him around, but it got to be very stressful on the baby. He was getting colds and things like that babies do, but then even more so. Right. And so this particular individual, a cousin, brought him into her home along with her family and her adult children. Right.
So now baby M is 1, and he's really thriving. The other day you were out in the garden.
He's gone from crawl to run, as Julie put it.
Literally. And he never crawled, or he never even crawled. He went from like being held to running.
Yeah.
Like in between there was like
he crawled around our floor a little bit, but
just a teeny bit.
But there's a steep set of stairs outside.
Super steep.
And it's like the entrance.
I won't take it.
And they kind of shake when you walk up and down them.
Oh my God.
And he crawls up them. He doesn't go down them, but he crawls up them
because he knows that's where he lives. So he's like, oh, I'm just gonna.
And he's up before you can even say stop.
Right. Before you can do anything. So the other day, JP was out gardening. He was watering the garden and assessing, our jungle back there. And all of a sudden you tell me, come on out and join the conversation.
So here he is. He's on the chain link fence next door to where I am. And I'm watering, and he's like,
he's like, okay, you guys ever
and
watch?
I'm like, really? That's great. Nice to see you too. But so what's going on? And
you guys ever see the show Home Improvement and Wilson, where you only ever saw like this much of Wilson, and he would just go on and on and on? Do you guys remember that show?
Yeah.
Ever? Well, that's what it was kind of like with Baby M. He's just like hanging on the fence,
right?
Like,
there's some plants. Well, the chain link fence is probably about chest high for me,
to an adult.
And
so he's
there's
hanging
some plants
on it,
there, and so I see him
through the
through
plants.
Yeah,
you can kind of see him through the plants, but and so I came out and we continued the conversation. It was fascinating conversation.
Yeah, very enlightening.
Yeah, fascinating having a conversation with a 1-year-old. So he's really thriving. I wanted to give everybody an update. It's such a sweet story.
Yeah.
The family is so cute. So they have a little tiny Pekingese, a little dog.
No, he's a chow. Or what is he?
No, he's a Pekingese.
Pekingese. You're right.
He's a Pekingese. I would know because I like little dogs. He's a Pekingese. Okay. So they have a little Pekingese that they walk 3, 4, 5 times a day, and now they're also taking the baby for the walk with them, and he's walking along on his own, running up the back of the house
and welcome you to Munchkin Land.
Oh man, he is so funny and cute.
Yeah.
So anyway, I wanted to end our
on something a little more positive
broadcast on a happy note.
Yeah.
So
all right. And a happy meal. No, we're just a happy note. Okay, well, thanks, guys. And please subscribe to Rockfin or to Patreon. You can help us out. You can check out our new audio podcast, Footnote, and look for us, I guess, next month for another edition of Bookmark.
Who knows? Maybe we'll do it sooner.
Maybe so. All right.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot for joining. It was super fun today.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bookmark is made possible by our patrons and supporters. You can help us continue our work by becoming a patron at patreon.com/bookofhours. Join Rockfin or leave us a tip at rockfin.com/bookofhours, or leave us a one-time donation at paypal.me/bookofhours. Or you can use Cash App. Thank you.